first things first, and just make sure tomorrow we're writing a quiz, and that quiz will have the following questions in it. Okay, so we like finding the mortgage payment, calculating the total interest paid, interest on the first month, principal on the first month. Right, those are things that we did at the very beginning, right? Let me just focus once here. You can see a bit better. Okay, so mortgage payment, total interest paid in the first month, principal in the first month. So that was kind of like what we started with, and you need that peach looking handout for that, right? Like there's that where all the charts are located. You're gonna need that for sure. I reposted it as a PDF on Friday, I believe. And so if you don't know what it looks like this, right? So if you're looking at the screen, oops, turn that off. Okay, so we have that, and then so that was basically a chunk, right? And with that goes, and that's when you just go back and review, like how could you lower your monthly payments, right? What could you do to make that happen? How could you reduce the total amount of interest paid, right? Right. So shorter time frame would result in less interest paid, but it would increase your monthly payment, right? So knowing how the dynamics, how that works is very important. Yeah. Yeah, that's correct. And then we talked about insurance, right? We had tenant insurance and we had home insurance. How to do that, right? So that took us a little, I guess the formula, right? Have that formula that I gave you for it. So we had that, and also knowing what the difference is between the two, what is covered, right? And just know how to calculate the insurance before and after tax, right? So that was what we talked about next. And then we talked about land transfer tax. And how to calculate that. Remember, you had your 30,000, your 60,000 tier, and then another 60,000 tier, and you had a 50,000 tier, right? So this would add up to 200,000, and past that we pay 2%. So we pay 0%, 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, and then it's 2% thereafter, right? Anything greater than that here would be 2%. So keep that in mind. So that we did a bunch of those. So maybe just go back and review how we did that. I used the subtracting method. So just keep subtracting the tier and just multiply it by the percentage. So if time allows, we might do a couple of these questions today. And last but not least is the GDSR, right? And there you just need to remember the 30%, 32% is what you're after, right? Because we don't want to be spending more than 32% of our household income on housing costs, right? So in a nutshell, right, that quiz tomorrow will have all of these components in there, but this is not an exhaustive list. This is just like if you know how to calculate these things, you'll be in good shape. But then obviously there are things that you will only be able to review by looking back, right, going over it. And that is that. Okay. And the other thing, and I'm going to pause the video for this because it may not pertain to. So okay, so here we have example 2 on page 33. The nice thing is you don't, other than the formula, you don't really need a table for GDSR. GDSR stands for gross debt, right? Gross debt service ratio. And it's one of the ways one of the calculations the banks will use to determine whether or not you're approved for a mortgage. Okay. I'm just going to go over here a bit. So let's go ahead and calculate that. I already told you the answer. I asked you to try it, but here it is again. Ernesto estimates that his monthly mortgage payment will be $519. So the key is here monthly, right? Let me just check here. Right, we want everything to be in monthly amounts. So monthly payment, good. There's the annual property taxes, that's not good. We're gonna have to deal with that. Monthly heating, that's good. And then there's the annual income, 68,000, right? So we need to convert everything into monthly amounts, right? Convert all annual amounts to monthly. Okay, so that's very important. So we're going to take the 2,300, the taxes, right? Property taxes. We're going to go 2,300 and divide that by 12, right? And we get 191.67 if you round it, right? Per month. And then income is 68,000 a year. We're going to divide that by 12 also, and we get 5,666.67 per month. Okay, so we have all of those things converted to monthly amounts, right? And the formula, as you already told you, is as follows, but I don't have enough room to write it out again. But let's just go up one more time here. Some of you might need a reminder. This is it right here. GDSR, and this is also found in your formula sheet, right? It's the mortgage plus the heat plus the tax, right? The property tax divided by income. Okay. And that's what we're going to use in this case. So it's the housing costs, basically the housing costs divided by income. So we have our mortgage is 519 plus our heating bill is 105 a month plus our property taxes is 191.67. All of that divided by the income, the monthly income, which is 5,666.67. And we will multiply that by 100. Okay. If you add up the top, right, you get 815.67 divided by 5,666.67 cents times 100. So you just go with this, divide it by that, multiply that by 100, and that gives you 14.39%. This is the GDSR. This is the ratio, right, as a percentage. And will he be approved? Right? Will be approved. And this is the key here for GDSR because the GDSR is below the 32%, right? That is the key. Saying if it's above 32%, it would not be approved, right? So you'd have to say it's above 32%. If it's below, then yes, it will be approved. The mortgage that you would be applying for in this case will be approved. Or you're passing the test, right, of whether or not you can afford a mortgage like that. And in fact, Ernesto is way below, well below, I would say, right, the limit. You could probably go for a mortgage that's double or almost triple of what currently is being paid, right, and still be okay. I need you to understand this. So I kind of ran out of room here, right? But let's say this question would ask, what's the maximum mortgage payment that Ernesto could be making? The maximum mortgage payment. This is how you would do such a calculation. You take the monthly income, right, and you multiply that by 32%, so 0.32, and you get that. You're saying, yeah, that's the maximum mortgage. No, that's not the maximum mortgage. That's the maximum you can spend on housing, 32%. And we know that housing is comprised of mortgage, heating, and property taxes. So if you subtract the property taxes, it equals, and you subtract the heating, it equals. This is in reality, this is how much Ernesto could, this is the maximum mortgage payment Ernesto could afford, right? If you wanted to see, like, what's the maximum, how far can I stretch out my payment and still be all right, it would be this, okay? That would make you fall right on 32%, which means you're still fine. If you fall right on 32%, you would still be approved, okay? But you cannot be above. Okay. Here, I would like you to take a couple of minutes, let's say 10 to 15, and go to page 35 and try that right now. Calculate and answer the questions that are there on page 35. I think that's it. So let's go to page 35, and then I'll just mention one more thing on page 36 there before we move on, okay? So 10 to 15 minutes doing working on this right now. So that would take us to, I apologize if some of you aren't done yet. But here it is. Page 35. All right, so Dan is thinking of purchasing a home. And all of the housing costs are provided here, and they're all in on a monthly basis, right? So we're good there. And the gross monthly income is $2,800. So everything is monthly. So we're good to go. We can just plug in and go. Okay. So the GDSR in this case would be 836.25 plus 150 plus 135. All of that divided by the monthly income. Multiply that by 100. This whole thing, if cleaned up, if I just do the adding here, gives you 1121.25 over 2,800 times 100. Right, so you divide now and multiply it by 100, and you get 40 0.04%. Okay. And so we circle that. That's what they were asking us for there. Explain whether Diane will be approved by the bank to purchase the house. No, she will not be approved. She will not be approved. Since, this is important, her GDSR is above 32%. Okay, that's very important to mention the 32%, whether you are above or below. The burden is too heavy, basically. From the bank's perspective, if you were to go for this mortgage, your debt load would be too high, and so they will most likely not approve it unless something changes. Like you have a bigger down payment, which will reduce your monthly payment on the mortgage. If you increase your income by getting a co-signer, that would also help, and so forth. All right, question 2. Peter and Susan plan on buying a house. They have no debts and they have saved up some money to use as a down payment for the house. Peter earns $1,900 semi-monthly, so I threw a little curveball in there. That just means twice a month before income taxes, and Susan makes $3,150 gross monthly. It's always gross. I don't know if in grade 10 you would have learned about the difference between net income and gross income. Gross is just the amount you make before taxes have been deducted, and that's what we use in this course. Okay, so you won't have to worry about that difference. Calculate Peter and Susan's combined income. So Peter makes 2 times monthly we want, right? So 2 times 1,900, that's 3,800, right? A month. So combined would be the 3,150 that Susan makes and the 3,800 that Peter makes. And that is a combined 6,950 per month. That's not bad. Okay. Take away, probably at least 25%, 30% for taxes and so forth, pension plan. But we just need that, 6,950. What 3 items are included in your answer above housing costs? That isn't, I should have worded it differently. So what 3 items are included in housing costs? That's all you needed to put down there. And so I just want you to know that it's the mortgage payment, right? Plus the heating, plus the property taxes. That, for GDSR purposes, that is considered your housing cost. We know in reality, right, there'd be more, but that is for GDSR purposes, all monthly amounts, right? It's always monthly. That's always the assumption we're making. According to the GDSR of max of 32%, how much could they afford, right? How much could they afford? What's the maximum each month on housing cost? So maximum housing cost would be taking the 32% and you multiply it by their monthly income, because that's really what we're finding out. Okay, and when you do that, you get $2,224 even. This is the maximum they can spend on those 3 categories. Okay, and so now calculate the GDSR for Peter and Susan. I have to give you some more info here. And heating is $280 per month. Property taxes is $44.60 per year. And the mortgage payment is $1,980 per month. That's the info that you weren't given that you need, right, to calculate the GDSR. So everything is monthly. We know their monthly income. We know the heating, the payment. This is per year. We're just going to go ahead and divide this by 12. Okay, so 44.60 divided by 12, you get $371.67 per month. Okay, so we need to get the yearly amount. If you don't, I already talked about it on Friday, your answer is going to be somewhat ridiculous. Like it's going to be a ridiculously high or ridiculously low number, which should indicate to you something went wrong here. All right, so let's go ahead and find a GDSR. So the GDSR is going to be the mortgage. I like to start with that, even though it doesn't matter. Heating is $280, and the property taxes would be $371.67. And then we divide it by their income, their combined income, right? Now, I want you to stop here for a minute and think. Do a little bit of mental math here. We just figured out that the maximum they can spend on housing is $2,224, correct? What is housing cost? Well, it's these three items combined. You can tell already, if you just do a little bit of mental math, you can tell that this amount is going to go past, it's going to go over this 2,224, right? Just like this is almost 2,000 here, plus another 280, that's 2,280, you're already past there, plus the property taxes will get you way over. So you should already assume, you should already know that the GDSR will be past 32%. It will probably not, like it will not be approved because of that. So I want you to see that pattern, right? That you can actually already, by this amount, you can tell that if this thing goes over, you're not going to qualify. So let's add up the three numbers there, 1980 plus 280 plus 371.67. That's 2631.67. And you divide that by 6950. You multiply that by 100, and we can tell, right, that the 2631 is over the maximum, but we're going to still go ahead and calculate that. And so it's 3787. They will not be approved since GDSR is above 32%. Done. So these are the things on page 36 that you can take. These are the steps you can take to still be approved, right? If your GDSR is too high, you can bring it down. All right, we're gonna go. I had a few insurance questions here. Okay. Let me just find a blank page in your booklets Go to page 34. Review insurance. Let's do this one. Manveer rents. I will make it very short here. Possessions are worth 35,000. Wants comprehensive. Comprehensive insurance, $200 deductible. Calculate premium after tax. So write that down. This is on page 34 in case you need a blank page. You find it on page 34. And so we have the insurance formula, okay? This is the one that works, has all components in it. And I use square brackets, right? It's table plus overage, right? Multiply that by 1.10 if you want a $200 deductible, and times 1.07 if taxes are included, because it's only 7% PST on that. So we want a $200 deductible. So yes, it's taken care of. So we keep this component in our formula. We want after tax. That means that we're going to keep these two things. We want insurance for 35,000. So let's go ahead and this is tenant insurance. Tenant insurance is when you rent. So you want to use the tenant package policy, and the coverage amount goes up to 75 grand. We are in the 35,000 coverage, and we want comprehensive, so it's 252. That's the value you're going to go and get. There's for sure always one value that we're going to get. So that's the table rate, 252 bucks. There is no overage, right? We're not going over the maximum, which is 75,000. So we don't need to worry about that. So really, this is gone. We just multiply by 110 and then 1.07. I would do one step at a time. Okay. So 252 times 1.10. And that gives you 277.20. Because let's recap. This would have been a $500 deductible by default. You add the 10% to make it a $200 deductible before tax. And now we're going to multiply by 1.07, leaving it on your screen, right? And multiply that number by 1.07 to give me 296.60. This is the one that answers the whole thing. Okay, 296.60, and this is always per year. Okay, so this is now a $200 deductible before tax. This is now a $200 deductible after tax. Okay, this 252 in here is a $500 deductible insurance. And that just means that if you make a claim, you would have to pay $500 deductible. So that would just be $252 before tax. Okay. We wanted a $200 deductible, so we multiply it by 1.10 because we're adding 10% to make it a $200 deductible. And then at the very end, we multiply it by 1.07 because it's 7% PST, right? That's why we do that. So if it didn't ask for tax, if it didn't say after tax, we would have stopped here and not done that extra step. Okay. So this is tenant insurance, but it works exactly the same except for you need to pick a different chart, right? Let's do another one. Okay, so that's called Jessica. Oops, Jessica owns house. Replacement value of the house is $390,000. That's the value of the property and the belongings, right? Lives in area 3 with like comprehensive. $500 deductible. Calculate premium before and after tax. So this I'm going to ask you to do both before and after tax. All right, so we have it's a home insurance, so you own a house, so you're going to go to the chart that has the Manitoba homeowners insurance rates. Okay, it's a $390,000 value. So right now, if you go down the insurance values here, you're definitely going over, right? You're insuring for 390,000. So 200 is max. So you need to go grab a number at the bottom here. So we're gonna go to area. This is area. Let me try to have everything on there. But this is Metro Winnipeg. So we skip that. This would be area 1. Sorry, area 2. Sorry, and then area 3 is right here. You want you want $799 because you want comprehensive insurance, and then we pay $391 for every $1,000 of coverage past $200,000. So you write down the $799 for sure. Okay. So to calculate insurance, we're gonna go $799 plus how much are we over by? This is actually pretty easy to do. Just take the value you're trying to insure, subtract 200,000 from it, and you're left with 190,000. Okay? So the 190,000 goes in here, but you're not paying 190,000, right? You're paying, let's go back, you're paying $391 per $1,000 of insurance. So just make sure that 391 is written over 1,000 like that. So this is kind of like your square bracket in that formula I gave you earlier. You multiply this by 10% and by 1.07. Oh, we don't want the $200 deductible, right? So this step will be omitted. We're not going to do that because it's a $500 deductible. So we just leave this as is. So $799 plus this part right here. This part right here gives you $742.90. This part. Okay. And we're going to multiply that by 1.07 because we want after tax, also before tax. So we're going to do this in 2 steps. And so it's this part right here is $1,542 $41.90. This is before tax. And then we're going to go $1541.90 times 1.07. Let me just calculate that. That's $1649.83 after tax. Okay. So we have that, and let me just, yeah. So everybody, like Ben, that was just a rounding probably there, rounding issue, but close. Okay. So this is the answer there. Okay. 6 minutes left. I think I'm going to leave it here. So you have to just review land transfer tax and maybe some insurance questions, okay, for tomorrow's quiz.